This is the Kratom Sobriety Podcast, and this is Charlie, and I'm with Dave M this week. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Charlie. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing your experience to give people a little bit of hope, even though it seems like you've got yourself backed into a situation you can't get out of. It is possible, and there might be a little bit of pain along the way, but on the other side of it, life is a lot better. That's what our podcast is about. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
You know, I'm in my late 30s. I'm a father of 3. I'm married. I am in the health and fitness field. I know my stuff when it comes to supplements and looking at ingredients and things like that. And I slipped up. I was arrogant. I was also a victim of very good marketing, I would say. I definitely take pride in taking care of myself, but that definitely went to the wayside fairly quickly. Back on track, and I'm happy about where I am today. And it's been a long ride, and trying not to look back at all, except for remembering the experience and the lessons that it taught me.
It's interesting. There is a subset of folks that come from the fitness background that kind of get caught up in the Kratom conundrum. And we'll dig into that a little bit, I'm sure, with your story.
Sure.
When did you quit Kratom?
Today is 27 days clean.
Nice. Almost there to a month.
Yeah, definitely. At this point, though, you know, I'm feeling almost 100%. Almost.
That's good to hear. When did you start using Kratom, if you remember sort of the circumstances when that happened?
Yeah. I remember not the date, but the day very clearly.
Yeah.
It was a little over 2.5 years ago. I have 3 kids. My youngest is 2.5. And I think my first try of it was right before my youngest was born. I had somebody who gave me one, a kava-kratom tonic to try out. You know, why would I think that this person was giving me something that was going to turn my life upside down? They were also into health stuff and, wellness and all that kind of stuff. And I heard about them on a podcast too. So I was aware of them, never seek them out or anything like that. But so I tried it. Yeah. I remember it was a Saturday. I was at work, tried it. Oof. It gave me a go. I mean, I talked them up to everybody. I did not seek them out the following day or anything like that, but I definitely thought about it. And then I did find some, and, every once in a while, every other day or so, I would have one. I was definitely seeking them out though at that point. I'm like, where can I get them? Thinking about it. And then I think I ended up buying a case. I was like, I might as well get a case, So I would take one a day, and then it turned into like one earlier in the day and then one kind of in the afternoon. That went on for a while, and then it turned into 3, and then it just snowball effect. And then it was like every 2 hours. I was like, all right, like I'm safe in that 2 hour. I feel okay. At the worst, it was almost every 40 minutes. I was drinking these.
During waking hours?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I've done a lot of research because I'm trying to figure out like how I'm feeling right now, like what's normal, what's not. And it's hard to say because everybody's different. But I slept perfectly fine at night. I never woke up at night to take any. When I would wake up in the morning, that was obviously the worst because my body was definitely having some withdrawals. I was shaky. Like when I would brush my teeth, if I didn't get one in me first thing, it was rough. And I would be irritable. That's for sure. But I definitely slept okay. It was just those mornings were rough. And just to help keep myself on track, like I think about those mornings. Like now when I wake up, I'm good to go. I get up, I don't even really need caffeine in me, really. I do if I'm going to work out, but nothing. It's just night and day how different I feel.
When you first took them, had you heard of Kratom before?
Never. No. Mm-mm.
And how soon did you figure out that it was the Kratom versus the kava that was the issue?
You know what? I guess I didn't realize that I had an addiction to them, like physical addiction, like a dependency, until like a year in or so. I thought it was just more like I liked them and wanted them. I never thought it was the kava. Once I realized, oh shit, I need these, it's no longer a want, then it started clicking like, yes, this is the kratom. The thing is, like, I'm a research person. Like, I'll look in to find the answer. I'll look into it. I didn't with this. I didn't. And I know it was just, it was fear. I was afraid of what I was reading when I saw some things, because I did once in a while, just brief, but then I would get out of it fairly quickly because I'm like, I can't deal with this.
How many did you get up to your highest per day?
If it was 8, that was a successful day of tapering for me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, dang, only 8. That's great. But anywhere, there was a few times, maybe more.
Yeah, they stack really easy. Do you have any history of any other forms of addiction?
When I was in college, I didn't know, I wasn't seeking out. I didn't know what it was, but I was prescribed to Adderall. I abused those, and I was on that for about a year, taking a lot from what I remember. But getting off of those was fairly easy. One night I had a panic attack and I was like, shit, I'm done. And I never touched them again. I had been thinking about that recently. It's funny you ask, because I've read that those are hard to get off of, but I didn't have a problem. That was like no big deal for me.
Yeah, some people have a lot of withdrawal symptoms from Adderall, and everybody's a little bit individually different.
Of course.
Adderall is something that you can create a dependency to, and it is a substance that people taper off of and have some problems with it. What are some other flags that you saw that, wow, this is not something I'm going to be able to keep doing forever?
Well, first, because of the line of work that I'm in, that was always a priority. Like if I didn't eat well and work out in the morning, not very fun to be around. I was just edgy, crabby about it. That's just my thing. So I would get up very early in the morning, between 4:30 and 5:30, typically, to work out. That's how I started my day every day. I never miss a day of doing something active. It's just what drives me. Some of the earlier signs was like, all of a sudden my focus went from being as healthy as possible to when and where can I get some of these tonic drinks, right? I definitely lost my focus. I lost motivation to do the things that I love. My diet went to shit and I didn't care. When before, if I ate a cookie, like I would be thinking about that the rest of the day. That's how paranoid I was about being as healthy as possible. But I didn't care. I started losing weight. I started losing muscle mass. And normally that would have freaked me out. And I could care less. Money caused a lot of issues in the house. I started becoming great at lying, making up excuses on why I got to leave the house. Sure, a lot of people can relate to all these things I'm saying too, right?
Definitely. You're not alone.
Yeah. Tons of running around to get more. Just like the constant on the move. I would go and get some, even though I know I was going to be I would go out of my way to get some when I knew where I was going in an hour, I was going to get some anyways. Like I couldn't wait the hour. It has to be now. It's really all I thought about. You become a slave to it. That's bottom line. That's all I thought about. It's all I cared about. And I didn't care who I hurt on the way.
How many were you buying at a time?
It varied, whatever I had on me. So anywhere from 1 to a case, whatever I had. If I had enough to buy a case, I'd buy a case.
Yep.
I had to make sure that I got some at night to make sure I had some for the morning. I didn't want to go to sleep without having any at the house.
And how did things start to get worse that you said, hey, I should quit this stuff?
I was failing at everything. My family, friends, work. It's surprising that I was able to hold it together at work like I did, but I was doing the bare minimum, I definitely would say. My responsibilities, I was failing at them. I wasn't doing them, but I was doing the basic necessities, and I would say I'm hardworking. I would say I'm honest, caring for other people type of person. And I never intentionally meant to hurt anybody. I wasn't thinking that. Honestly, every wrong that I did, I assumed I will fix this when I get off of them. If I spent money that wasn't mine, I would be like, well, I'll pay it back when I can. And I would get money, and instead of paying it back, I would go buy more,
Mm-hmm.
It's just that vicious cycle. But I did not quit necessarily voluntarily. So that's kind of a different story of what happened with me. Like most people, I would assume every time I wanted to quit, and I'd be like, last one, right? Last one. My behavior was so off that my family started noticing. My wife, my siblings, my parents, it's not hard to tell when like someone's character is all of a sudden changing. But my siblings found out that I had been taking way more of these than I let on. And again, like most addicts, became a master of manipulation and lying. And it's scary how good you get at it and how easy it becomes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I was at work on a Tuesday. I work until 8:00 at night. And I knew stuff was happening, but it was hard. I was busy at work. But basically, my wife and my siblings kind of decided like I'm going to be put into a detox facility. So I do have a lot of anger about how that all went down. Part of me wants to, well, I'll say, so I went there. They took me. I went voluntarily. I didn't fight it because part of me was like, finally, let's end this. And, you know, and I was broken. I didn't have any fight in me. I was barely getting by as it was. You know, one of the things that I have to do is let go of the ego, right? So part of me like thinks like, man, like I wish I can go back and show them like they can't just do what they want with me. Because the bottom line is if I didn't really want to, that would never have happened. You know, you're not going to drag me out of my own house. You know what I mean? But on the way there, my wife asked, like, what are you thinking right now? Like, do you want to do this? Are you ready? Not that my answer would have changed her course of action or anybody else's course of action, right? Not that she was going to like get me out of it or anything or try to, but I just said, you know what, this is it. Let's just do this. So I went into a detox place that was a Tuesday night and I was released on a Friday morning. So like 2.5 days or whatever. I was on a medication to help with the withdrawals just for those 2 days though. And then I was off of them. I mean, just like you would read, you feel like shit for the first few days and then you start turning around. I was depressed for sure, very emotional, thin and weak. I didn't eat at all when I was in the detox place. I mean, the food was just horse shit. So I didn't eat anything. I looked very thin and my skin was a disaster. My stomach was a disaster. But that all started slowly turning one by one. So I'm at 26, 27 days. My skin is almost back to normal. My stomach in the past few days had finally like calmed down, got back together. The only thing that's still lasting is sleep is not that great, but it's better. And there's inflammation in my joints, which I never had before.
I could see it being hard to be blindsided having a family do an intervention on you like that. But on the other side of the coin, I guess it's an opportunity that not everybody gets. It sounds like your children are young enough, so they won't remember any of this, at least.
Yeah, for sure, which I'm fortunate for. Those in a detox place, it's like prison. It is prison. You know, you are stripped, you're in scrubs. You don't have any personal belongings whatsoever. There's one phone for everybody to use, no TV, nothing. So, you know, what do? I mean, I just laid there. I would get up once in a while. I mean, I did nothing. And then you're stuck. You're already in a depressed state. And now you're kind of secluding yourself in this place you don't want to be. And it's a dangerous situation. It's a scary thing. And it's not for the faint-hearted, I would say.
Was there anybody else there from what you could tell on Kratom?
Not that I'm aware of. No, from the discussions I heard, it was much heavier. Well, I don't even want to say heavier, you know, more recognizable street drugs.
Now that you're back, are you doing anything, a program, a support group, therapy to work on preventing a relapse?
I do have a sponsor. I go to AA meetings. I do online Kratom meetings too. But going to AA meetings, the stories, it's mainly alcoholics there, obviously, but that's still an addiction. And the stories still resonate, the behaviors, all that stuff. And I know going in, you know, I was kind of forced to walk in there the first time, but I could see going in is a intimidating thing. So if somebody's listening to this and is like, does not want to do that, is nervous about that, you won't find a nicer, more welcoming group of people anywhere. I don't think like they are. Oh, it's your first AA meeting. Come on in. We got you, you know? And it's the one place where, even though it's a bunch of strangers, like I'm comfortable there. I don't feel judged. I don't feel like a complete loser or failure. Most other places, there's only a handful of people close to me that I don't feel judged around. I'll say my wife's definitely one of those people who's never made me feel horrible about my behaviors or what I did.
Well, that's a blessing. You should probably feel fortunate for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you abstaining from alcohol too and other substances?
Yeah, I was never a big drinker anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Is there anything particular reflecting back being addicted to these kava-kratom tonics that come to the forefront of your mind about your story?
Yeah, I wish I would have asked for help sooner. I'm not one to ask for help ever. I'm not one to talk about my feelings or emotions openly. If you would have told me a year ago I would be doing this, I'd say you're out of your fucking mind. But I just wish I would have asked for help sooner. There's no shame in that because you can't. I could not do it alone. I tried to. I wanted to. It was not possible. I always kind of would think to myself that I felt like I was in this dark room, right? And I'm searching for a light switch or a door. And I was never able to find it. And it's a lonely feeling dealing with this alone. But I realized maybe I was looking the wrong direction. And everybody's different. It's all relative, because when I hear people's stories in AA, they had it worse, a lot worse. But for me, this was pretty bad, so I felt like I was definitely, for me, I was at rock bottom, but I did not think to look up and there was a light there. I was looking in the wrong direction. I just didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And the thing about comparing bottoms, even in this podcast or going to other kratom meetings, you can hear of people who get a little bit of time off of kratom and then relapse, and then things get even worse. They lose their jobs. They lose their houses. I heard about somebody living in their car recently because they lost everything just because of this particular product in particular. But many of the potent kratom products can get you to a place like that. Did you ever try to quit on your own? Did you plan a trip? I'm going to go to Hawaii and I'm going to get off kratom when we're out there or something.
No, but real quick before I answer that, I wanted to say that if I had full access to our money without my wife knowing, if I had full access, I would have spent it all. I would have just spent it all. So
that's pretty uncontrollable. Yeah, that's really out of control.
Completely. Yes. Completely out of control. But no, we were in Florida about a year ago. And I remember when we got there, maybe it was 2 years ago, there was a point where we went and I was on them. I couldn't sleep that night. And it didn't dawn on me why, right? I had restless legs, all that. I felt anxious the next day. And all I was thinking about was, how am I going to go find these? And that would have been a perfect opportunity because it wasn't that bad at that point. But I didn't know. I did not know. It didn't click, which sounds so how did you not know? But I just didn't. But I did at one point try to quit. I was off of them. It wasn't out of my system yet, but that was the only time where I gave it a real legit try.
Okay.
But every day was one more. Tomorrow, I'm done.
Yeah, this will be the last day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be a new day. And we'll stop with this nonsense.
Yes. You've heard that one before, huh?
Well, yeah, I thought I invented that.
Yep. Vicious cycle.
The vicious cycle, yeah. Well, it's been about a month beyond a medically supervised detox. Anything in that first month that helped you feel better through all the different symptoms you had with withdrawals?
Yeah, being around people that didn't make me feel judged or shamed. Going to AA meetings definitely helped. Moving around as much as I can, even though I was pretty weak, but just slowly, it was just a slow process. It just takes time. But those first few days, that first 4 to 5 days is the worst. What's weird though, is when I was in the detox place, I didn't really think about it. I wasn't craving them, but I will warn people that there are times where that voice comes in my head and says it's been a month almost, and, you can have one. To me, that's just the devil creeping in, all I have to do, if I have to call somebody, I can call my sponsor, I can call anybody. But what helps me is I just think about how shitty you felt. Like, that's not what you want right now, not what you need.
Yeah.
The voice is there, but I really don't have a desire to go get any.
I think with this addiction, a big part of it is this unconscious compulsion, and you're sort of on an autopilot. And there's the physical withdrawals preventing feeling bad, when you get to the dosages that we were taking. I mean, that's the most imperative thing, is to just not feel sick, but just this automatic compulsion. It's a habit. It's a routine. And then in your case, you had that just like interrupted, and you're plucked out of your environment. But there is the long-term battle of the mental. You start to feel better. And there's all these other sets of lies where, just one, I'll just take it one time. That usually will start you back on the same path. I imagine with your situation, you're being closely supervised by your family.
Yes. It's eased off a little bit, but yes, which is fine. My annoyance by that has diminished a little bit.
But eventually, you're a grown man, you'll be on your own, and you want to be spiritually fit for that moment that there's nobody looking.
Yeah.
You could get away with it,
But I mean, I think while, yes, I'm being monitored constantly, it feels like. But at the end of the day, just like any other addict, if I wanted to, I could.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there would be no stopping us. Right. I mean, that's just the way it is. People, family can monitor me all they want. Bottom line is it's not really doing much, because if I wanted to, I could have 100 times over by now.
Well, what are some of the positives now that you're almost a month off? What are some of the good things that are going on?
I mean, I've got my life back. I'm me again. I hated looking at myself in the mirror. I'm way, way more present with my kids. When I'm with people, I'm present. Typically, if I had to go somewhere before I leave, I'm plotting how and where I'm going to go get some of these drinks. And now I'm like freed of that. I can go anywhere, anytime, and I don't need to worry about that. I mean, that's enough for me right there. My health is coming back. Clothes are no longer falling off of me. And it's surprising what it did to my appetite and things like that. And it was weird, even when I was on them, I would be hungry. And if I had a decently normal sized meal afterwards, I didn't feel good. I mean, it messes with your gut, and my hands would feel weird, like everything. So that was another reason why I would not eat very much during the day.
Yeah, there's a lot of people losing a lot of weight with the kratom, and a lot of gastric problems, just really stomach issues. Well, is there a message that you'd like to tell yourself a year, kind of a message in a time capsule?
Yeah, to not forget what it was like when you were on them. Life is hard. It's hard enough in general for most of us, for all of us, I'm sure. And then you add in these, and it makes it that much harder. I would just remind myself, don't forget what it was like and how you felt and how it impacted, the whole household, and I just don't want to ever go back to that place.
Well, to lighten things up a little bit, we like to ask people your playlist that you like to listen to when you're down or when you're up, or to celebrate.
I can be all over the board, but I'm mainly a country person.
All right.
Usually something feel good, definitely that. And I listen to a lot of different podcasts too, especially, when I'm driving or something like that. Yeah.
How did you find out about our podcast?
I followed somebody on social media that mentioned it. So I was like, I'll check it out, Yeah. So that's where it led me.
Cool. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you on. Well, do you have a tip for someone getting ready to quit kratom? What would be your number one suggestion?
Well, first, I would say, if I were to go back and do it again, I would have wanted to suffer at home, not in a detox place. So I would have suffered through those withdrawals without the medication, or I would have asked a psychiatrist or an MD or something for a medication if it could be prescribed. And I would have somebody literally stand outside my door of my room and just let me suffer at my own house. That's how I would have done it if I could. It could be dangerous for some people because my heart rate was pretty high. You want to monitor your blood pressure and all that kind of stuff. So just be careful if you're planning on doing that. But ask for help is the number one thing, and that's hard. And then just do it now. Don't wait until tomorrow. I said tomorrow a lot, and tomorrow never came because I was doing it on my own. And for me, it just wasn't possible. And I would tell somebody that don't be ashamed. It doesn't make you a bad person. And you may have done some bad things. I did some bad things, a whole shit ton that I would never do ever. But I did. Someone said in one of my AA meetings that people would tell him once he got sober that he changed, right? Like, oh, you changed for the better, right? And he said, like, I didn't change. It's just those character flaws from my addiction have diminished and my true self is showing. I mean, I know in my case, I like to believe I'm a good person. So I would say that's true in my case too. Like, this is who I am. I'm a good person. I don't lie. I don't steal. I don't fly off the handle for no reason, really. I'm a calm, cool person. I would tell somebody you need to ask for help because if you were like me, there's no way you could do it on your own. And I tried to for 2 years.
Well, thanks for sharing your journey. I can imagine you a couple of years ago being on the top of your fitness game, now a care in the world, and it must be sort of a humbling experience, especially if you don't have a history of this, to have something you buy over the counter and like kind of get a grip on you. Mm-hmm. It's great that you're sharing it with others because I know there's others just like you, and it's good to have multiple experiences that we can share with others.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lonely place to be. And when you hear other people are dealing with these things too, it helps you not feel just so alone. And people who've never had an addiction, they don't get it. It's like if you deal with depression or anxiety, if someone else have never dealt with that, they don't get it. So when people say like, well, yeah, you were addicted to something, but you didn't have to do this or that. It's like, well, I did have to do that. Well, I felt like I had to,
Yeah.
I just know that people just won't understand sometimes. And that's okay. That's okay.
Are there any parting thoughts you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
For people who are out there that are off of them and they're just trying to stay off one day at a time, just remind yourself of how bad things were. I know financial stuff can be a huge, huge problem, and people have said it in AA, and I can tell you firsthand too, those are the easiest problems to fix. You just do what you can, be honest, and people who are fighting to get off of them, there is a way. You can do it. I just hope that you ask for help from somebody because you need that.
Thanks a lot, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. This was fun. This was a cool experience.
Thank you.